Are gold and silver viable barter in a modern society?
I think so.
Do you think the Federal Reserve sees our world's reserve currency ending at some point?
I think they see it ending tomorrow. I think that they're so convinced it's going to go away, they don't know what the hell to do about it. That's the biggest problem we have as a reserve currency because it's falling apart. Okay.
Which do you think has greater impact on the price of silver and gold? Supply and demand or market manipulation? Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the overreaching focus is to bring inflation back down to our 2% goal. He reiterated the need for price stability. And he also said that there would likely be, quote, some pain to households and businesses. These are the unfortunate costs to reducing inflation. Is that the right thing for the Fed to do, Tim?
Didn't Paul Volcker try that?
Yes. And there's a lot of
Okay.
pain. There's a
Okay.
lot
So
of pain.
what do you think the inflation rate is? Just pick a number.
I would say it's around 15 to 18%.
15 to 18%. Let's say it's 15%.
Okay.
That means interest rates have to be 13% so they can get back to his target of 2%. Seriously. I mean, that's the only tool he has. It's insane. It doesn't work because the world is a different place. Okay. And who are they going to take care of? Well, they're obviously going to take care of the banks. Okay. Who else are they taking care of? Well, they're sure as hell not taking care of the people. No, the people are suffering pain. He just said so. You know, price stability that's a contrivance. Raising interest rates is because they don't know what else to do. Okay, they have no other tools in the toolbox. They're not very creative. They're not very smart. Okay, let's suppose if you wanted to reduce inflation, let's build up the industries that might help lowering inflation, like the petroleum industry, natural gas, and build those industries in addition to alternative sources of energy. The engine of every economy in the world is energy. That's the engine of every economy in the world. Right now, the best energy solution we have is petroleum. Okay, natural gas. You can do a lot with all
Fossil
that
fuels.
because we have unlimited resources. And, as long as we have a good, strong petroleum industry, we can build more batteries and find a way of making them less polluting. Okay. And less like what I see yesterday in some Tesla that blew up.
Less volatile, lithium batteries. Yeah. Oh, they
Just
burn and they
a
burn
ball of
hot.
flame.
Oh,
It was a ball
they're
of
hard to
flame.
put out. Yeah.
They could do a better job with electric cars,
Right.
but they got to keep the cost down. Okay, because of the cost of petroleum being at $60,000 a car on average, the price just went to $67,000 on average because of the price of petroleum. Why don't these people wake up, do things the right way, and then maybe we can help out Germany and France because they got the storage tanks, but Putin keeps going, you've got enough.
Well, Tim, they may not be brilliant, but they are woke and they are diverse and they get a lot of props for being that at the Federal Reserve. The Eccles building
They
is
are very
very
diverse.
diverse.
They're very
Yes.
diverse. And, it doesn't matter what race they are because I've heard more intelligent words out of the other Fed governors than I had coming out of Powell's mouth. And I don't know what's going on with Powell. I think he knows what he's doing, but maybe he should try a different tack. Maybe he should walk into the president's office and go, if you don't rebuild the petroleum industry in this country now, the inflation is going to get a lot worse, and you're going to be thrown out of here as the worst president in the history of America.
Do you think the Fed is eventually going to give in to market turmoil like it did back in 2018?
Yeah, there are too many things at work now that weren't at work even then. We got to pay interest on that debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that has exploded. Okay, just recently it's exploded. I mean, it hit 24 trillion and then went from 24 to 31, and a few heartbeats. Um, we still got to pay the interest on that, and who are we paying it to? Some unnamed individuals who own the Fed. I mean, who are we paying that to? But they can't pay the interest on it yet. I
And if
mean,
they
right
raise
now
it to 4, 5, 6 to try to take down inflation,
they got to go to 13.
it's going to destroy the economy.
Oh well,
It
and
will.
unemployment and that's one of the things that Larry Summers said this morning. I think it was this morning that I'm going, wow, I agree on something. It was that's what has a direct effect on the labor market.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already let 2 million people come across the southern border. What are these people doing now that they're here? I mean, are they still getting giveaways? Are you going to start, supporting all these people? What are they going to make? They're going to make a decent living, like $50,000 a year. What are they going to do? Okay, they're not going to do anything. There are no jobs. I mean, I used to sell metal detectors. Of the four companies, three of them are out of business already. Okay, and I know that two of those companies hired illegals because that's one of the reasons they're out of business because they were carrying phony social security numbers. It takes a while for the government to figure that out. Once they figured it out, they got fined. They got stiff fines for having these people there. I mean, what is the social security system going to do now? Give all these people social security numbers? Then who's going to give them the jobs? Can they all be chambermaids in Las Vegas? I don't think so.
Tim, are we on the right track in America?
No, it's not any um, facet of reality. We're not on the right track.
So I saw a poll done back in July where the majority of Trump voters in red states said that secession would actually make things better. I think that's amazing. With all that's going on in our society, the lawlessness that we see in many cities around this country, the woke politics, a toxic animosity just building through social media, especially, and the economic pain we touched on. Can we hold this society together?
No, no, because half the society doesn't give a crap, and the other half, the society is. I think, well, people are going to have to start taking care of themselves. There's absolutely no question in my mind. People are going to have to start taking care of themselves. Most people who are stackers are doing that. The problem is going to be having a large enough group of people who are speaking with one voice to stop this nonsense. November 8th is a good opportunity to do this. I don't see any other opportunities. November 8th is going to be that important. People are going to have to, talk with their neighbors, talk with people, everybody and say, why would you vote for these people? What do you want? Higher taxes? You want them to audit you because you're not on the right side? Why are you voting for these people?
Mm.
What have they done? Like we have four Democrats in this state. What have they done? Well, let's see. They voted to take our elections away from this state and give them to the federal government. They voted to keep the border open. Um, they voted to give away, um, you know, billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine with no accountability. I mean, what have they done for this country? They've done nothing for this country. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what state they come from. They all stick together and they do these stupid things or evil things.
Well, November 8th, you bring it up, and that's a very good point. Our midterms are critical. Although I do have viewers of my channel sometimes leave comments saying, "Oh, Tim, you don't get it. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing, and this is not going to be stopped by anything in the polls. They'll rig it. They'll change it. It's not the solution." What do
Yeah,
you think?
well, I think that's absolutely true. They'll do as much cheating as they can get away with. The thing is that we shouldn't let them get away with it. Every time you see something that's not right, or if like in this state, we have same day voting, same day registration.
Hmm.
That is the biggest joke. After the 2016 election, what the attorney general say? Well, we finished our election investigation, but there are 5,290 suspect registrations still out there. There shouldn't be one suspect registration.
Hmm.
It's time to fine every town, every precinct, $5,000 for every suspect
That's
registration.
a great idea.
That would stop it.
That's a
Okay,
great
so
idea.
if let's say when I go to the polls at 7:45, the polls close at 8, and there are 50 people in line to register. Did you guys all move here this today? Was it today you moved to this town? Well, I don't have my ID. I lost it. Okay, we'll scribble something on a little piece of paper and we'll give you a ballot.
I don't know, Tim. That sounds like a great idea, but it also sounds racist.
Okay, well, if you know somebody, I don't care what the race is, who can't get an ID or doesn't have an ID, send them to me. I'll get them an ID. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. If you don't have an ID, go get an ID if you want to vote. Simple as that. You ever feel like taking a plane somewhere? No? Well, how about take a book out of the library? No, not that either. What do you do? Well, I do need an ID to buy cigarettes. Well, use that to vote with. Well, people who call other people racist are the racists, and nobody knows about my background. A lot of racial bias in my background, bias toward black people, and every time someone comes in who's a person of color, black specifically, into my store, I treat them the best way I can.
Let's get back to precious metals. Here's a question for you,
Precious
Tim.
metals.
Precious metals, gold and
Oh,
silver. You ever
yeah,
heard of
that
it? I'm
stuff.
sure you have. Yeah, that stuff. Which do you think has greater impact on the price of silver and gold? Supply and demand or market manipulation?
Market manipulation is definitely at work with silver. Um, Gold, I mean, they can try to manipulate gold, but gold is a follower. If they're not going to let all this money leave Wall Street. Okay, there's a lot more money than we'll ever see in precious metals at work, and supply and demand probably plays a part in the asking price of a paper contract in silver, but they control the
Can,
price at which they buy back a contract. So, if the asking price starts to go up, they just pull it back. Um, I think that's going to come to a head. It may take a couple of years, but they do have regulations. If we ever get a government that wants to hold Wall Street accountable, we may see some hustling around.
can you understand the frustration with stackers when they see these
Yeah, but
insane premiums?
it's still a good buying opportunity, and it will be as long as they don't have the capital reserves they're supposed to have.
Do you hold back inventory as the price drops? Put it in your wonderful safe of yours and not pull it out?
No, and I've got someday I'll show you the paperwork on the the tube of um, 2022 Gold Eagles I purchased that cost me $2,056.70 a piece. Okay, took a while to get them delivered. Took 3.5 weeks for them to come in. In that time, gold dropped dramatically. Dropped from the $2,000 range down to the $1,800 range.
Just squirrel them away somewhere?
No, I sold them all, so I could buy more at the lower price. And I don't care either. Um, Plus, it's when I have to explain it to an IRS agent, I'd be glad to.
Do you believe there's a conspiracy to suppress the attractiveness of gold and silver to retail buyers?
I think it's a threat. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's a threat. And but the government has two interests at work. They make a lot of money making gold coins and silver coins. So let's see, how many agencies in the government actually make money? Well, none, basically. They all lose money. And the U.S. Mint loses money, but they lose money on mint sets and proof sets. They don't lose money on gold and silver. Um, and that's they have to sell everything at a profit. That's part of their contract. Um, but it's in silver, it's a very small profit, and it's also based on what they have to pay for it. If they're um, if the price of silver goes up and they have to pay too much for it, they may just slow down the manufacturing. People think it's the other way around. It's the price got too low, and now it's lower than their manufacturing cost, so they can't sell for that price. They got to sell for a higher price. That's where the premiums come in. And I think most of the premiums are set for the pretty much in the pass through market. They got their own distributors. Those guys make a living off the U.S. Mint. So if they're not getting enough product, they're going to raise the prices, and that's their privilege. But I think at the price the U.S. Mint sells to their master distributors, um, that's probably profit making.
But there is manipulation, especially with silver, that small market.
Yeah, I don't see how it can be any other way. But keep in mind the ETFs are also dropping customers. This SLV and GLD and the rest of them, they're losing customers.
What do you think breaks it finally? What are the conditions that stop the COMEX and the large banksters from manipulating this market?
Boy, so I can't figure out what regulatory agency is supposed to oversee this. And you would think it's the CFTC because that's what the name implies. It's the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission. Somebody's supposed to be keeping an eye on it, but maybe they just maybe Biden didn't appoint anybody to do that.
A couple things that I think might potentially break this. One would be war, but also global central bank agreements, potentially another Bretton Woods. And I'm wondering if the Federal Reserve were to say, you know what, we're going to revalue the dollar. Is that something that could potentially break the stranglehold and really let see the market forces, the supply and demand of gold and silver, really find its right
I don't
level?
think that's in the Federal Reserve's charter to do that. I don't think they can manipulate the price of the dollar, price of the dollar, or reset the dollar. Um,
Or the government?
I think worldwide agreement has to happen for a digital currency to have any basis. Um, I don't think that's going to happen because what are they going to start with? They start with, let's say, the European Union and Great Britain, because they're technically not in the European Union, and the Federal Reserve all agree on a digital currency. That's a very small portion of the world.
Mhm.
Um, so what do? Get other people? They get the rest of the BRICS, get them on. Well, they don't want to work with China and Russia, and they don't want to work with Iran and Syria. They don't want to work with all these Middle Eastern countries, China, Russia, North Korea. They don't want to work with them. Sure, we'd like to have South Korea. We'd like to have India, but India is in a very precarious position. So if Russia and China and the Korea has a North Korea has agreed on a reserve currency, a digital one or whatever, India will go with them. Japan will probably go with them.
So you don't see a large scale Bretton Woods style
No,
revaluation,
but the
a
Bretton Woods,
reset, if you
the
will.
important thing the Bretton Woods did was it made the dollar the world's reserve currency by
Yeah.
default because everybody had to pay the currency to the dollar.
Yeah.
So that makes the dollar the world's reserve currency.
But under a CBDC, could that not yet
Wait.
happen again?
A or a universal CBDC? That's the problem.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't do anything with if the European Union,
Hmm.
which operates now as one country, if they decide to have a digital currency, and I think they've already decided it's
Right.
necessary
Yeah, many
because
countries
their
have.
debt is
Yep.
just exploding and they have no way of manipulating it. But if they decide on the digital currency and they can get the Federal Reserve to agree that the format they've chosen is the correct one for this country, that's still a drop in the bucket because you still have China, Russia, potentially India, North Korea, the whole Middle East except for Israel probably have their own. Probably already do.
Do you think the Federal Reserve sees our world's reserve currency ending at some point?
I think they see it ending tomorrow. I think that they're so convinced it's going to go away, they don't know what the hell to do about it. And I had a $100 bill come in today that had markings from 4 different languages. And no, it's actually one, two, three, four, 5 different languages. One was somewhere in Europe. Um, the other 4 were probably Asia. I know Chinese was one. There 2 Chinese characters. The rest of them, they could have been, I don't know, Cambodia. They all have different currencies. Could have been India. I don't know, but they all had different markings on the $100 bill. So that bill, there's a bill that's been around the world. There's a lot of that. I mean, if you go get a stack of hundreds, get a stack of 50 hundreds, and look all over and see what markings are on them. Those bills have been outside this country, and that's the biggest problem we have as a reserve currency because it's falling apart. Okay, and when it falls apart, all that currency is coming flying back to this country because they're countries that they don't do a lot of trade, but they have dollars. Like when was it Hezbollah was during one of the conflicts in Lebanon. The people were bombed out of their houses. They went to Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is standing there handing out U.S. $100 bills. Okay, and the funny thing was there was a lamp on this desk, and this guy's holding them up there. Somebody took a picture of it and put it on the internet. You could see there was no watermark. You could see clearly there was no watermark. So those bills were fake.
Yeah.
But it's that, when you have a civil war going on in a place like Lebanon, the people who are in distress know they can go to Hezbollah and get U.S. $100 bills, and that's a lifesaver because they can go down to some market, and the market was hidden everything so it doesn't get damaged. We'll find food for that $100 bill. But that's the way it is around the world. It's a universal currency, but only because it's the world's reserve currency. Take that status away. What's Hezbollah going to do with theirs? Probably throw them in the fireplace.
You don't believe a central bank digital currency will, in any time soon, supplant transactions of physical cash?
I don't see how it can. You have to get agreement, not just with Canada. You got to get agreement from all those countries in Southeast Asia and the rest of the ones in Asia that China doesn't control, and Australia, South America, Africa. You need an agreement, a worldwide agreement to do away with cash.
And maybe a worldwide crisis or conflict or even economic collapse in order to drive that effort? Something big. Something big has to happen before something like
Well,
that
right now
occurs.
there's no common sense in Washington D.C. Okay, so if something big happened around the world, it would probably be addressed by somebody else. And there is something big going on right now in Ukraine. And so, what are we
Good
doing
point.
about it? Absolutely nothing. Well, the best thing we could do is throw money at it. That's all you ever do is throw money at it. That doesn't solve the problem.
Are gold and silver viable barter in a modern society?
I think so. Yeah, and just when my daughter and I used to go to gun show, and I was looking for a nice M1 Garand, she talked to every single dealer at the show and asked them a simple question: would you accept gold or silver in full or partial payment for guns and ammo? Every single one said yes. Every single one. Now that's
That's a gun show. How
that's a
about
gun show.
how
Yeah.
about mom and pop restaurant or
Well, I have it on good faith that
gas
it's
station?
working in Idaho. Okay, at least part of Idaho. The merchants in 2 towns are accepting silver coins as currency, and they post the price at 8:30 in the morning, at 1:30 in the afternoon, and everybody abides by that. And I said, well, don't they everybody, doesn't anybody use cash? The guy said, yeah. Somebody's driving through town and they want to stop at a restaurant and have a hamburger, they're going to bring US dollars.
But not the society,
Banks,
not the community within that area
oh, they're the community there.
uses.
Yeah, they just use silver coins.
Amazing.
And they bought a ton from me.
We need to do that more in New Hampshire. I'm going to do some videos on some transactions around here.
Going to farm stands.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, yeah. Say,
I'm gonna
I
try
like
that.
your cucumbers. Would you sell them to me for silver? It's worth trying. Right. And the worst thing they can do is say no. Okay. But you know, you can tell them exactly what it's worth. Show them, hey, here's on my phone. This is what the price of silver is today. So that makes this dime worth that. Yeah, you're going to lose a little money if you're going to have to go out and pay more for it. Like, you know, I have to pay more for it. That's why I have to charge more for it. But it's worth the experiment.
Can we ever see our currency backed by gold, provided the price is high enough? That's the caveat at the end.
Okay, there. Well, and why not make a $1 trillion bill? It's the same thing. How can you artificially boost the price of gold? And that's better than artificially boost the price of your dollar. It's the same thing.
So no.
How do you get gold up to $10,000 an ounce? How do you do that?
Because that's where it would have to be. They actually have to be a little more than that.
Okay, so what do you do with it? How do you get it there? If you get it to $10,000 by edict or whatever, by executive order, all right, what are people going to do with their gold? They're going to sell it. People aren't stupid.
Okay.
Okay. I get that call. Hey, remember those 3 goat buffaloes we talked about? Yeah. Well, I bought them, didn't I? No. Well, it's worth $10,000 a piece today. I heard that on Yankee.
In your mind, how likely is a gold and or silver confiscation?
Pretty remote. If they want to do that, they just shut me down and every other coin dealer now because they were easy pickings.
Wouldn't they have to shut down the U.S. Mint?
Well, the U.S. Mint is producing a lot of gold and silver. They would have to change the law to do that. And if this law this Congress we have now decides to do that, they could probably get away with it. If a future Congress with a little more common sense, I don't think anybody would even bother. They wouldn't even consider it. What are they going to confiscate your guns too?
We won't go there. Do you believe that gold and silver stackers in America are inherently pessimistic about our future?
Yeah, I think so. And are you a little bit pessimistic about the future?
I tend to be what I call a realist. I look at the facts. I say, this is a possibility.
Do the facts make you more optimistic or more pessimistic?
The facts are facts, but they do make me feel that we are not on the right track.
You're more pessimistic than optimistic about the future, given the facts of where we are today.
I would agree. How about you?
I also a realist. I think one of the reasons they don't take down our videos is because we're telling the truth. And
there's no guarantee that you won't be taken down for telling the truth.
My opinions are obvious, and people ask me opinions. I tell them what my opinion is, and you're asking me opinions. So what I'm telling you are my opinions. But when it comes to facts, they have no reason to argue with you. And the facts are not good right now.
Last question, Tim.
Last question.
Yeah. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this with me.
I feel like Karnak.
The big. Yeah. Where do you think precious metals, gold and silver, are headed in both short term, say next 2 years, and long term, at least to the end of this decade?
Silver had a pretty decent recovery, but then so did gold. So where did the ratio go? Well, the ratio went down under 90, and then it went back to 94. So we're not making any progress either direction. Now, if Republicans don't make a dent in November, I think we're going to start to see the precious metals adopt a pattern on their own because there's not enough silver out there to satisfy demand. Um, I'm not sure about gold. I think there's enough gold out there to satisfy demand, at least for the time being, but only because the ratio is so high. Um, if the ratio between silver and gold comes together, around 50 instead of 100, um, that's going to affect a lot of people. A lot of people are going to say, "Hey, look what's going on," and gold's going up. But look at how fast silver is going up. Silver is the problem. There's not a lot of silver out there, and I think there's not a lot of silver activity in some places because people just see the price and they go, it's going to go lower. I'm not going to put any more in silver because it's going to go lower.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the uneducated view. Look at the graphs over time and see what you think is really going to happen.
So long term.
Long term, I'm really afraid there's going to be a lot more inflation. And again, it depends on who is running the government. It depends on their overall philosophy and whether or not they want to turn this country over to Davos or something. I don't know. I
Can
don't know
you
who's.
foresee a moonshot? A moonshot in price for silver, for gold? What conditions could cause that?
Major upheaval, not just a conflict here or there. Major upheaval. I think there'd be serious problems in getting a hold of any gold, silver and gold.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's major upheaval is going to cause a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you say secession. Well, how can you can't just secede New Hampshire, for example, even though we have liberal mass below us and then Vermont and Maine that are very liberal. So secession probably wouldn't work very well because once they did, the White House would probably send troops to our border with mass.
We have no commerce.
And
we have no ability
with their FBI and their AR-15s. No, those aren't weapons of war. They'd have to be M1A1s. But yes, it would not. But if you redrew the Mason-Dixon line, okay, there'd be some talking about it. And what you want to get the big actors out of there. Now, Arizona is too close to California to want to agree with anything Texas says. But if they leave the borders open, and the only way they can stop it is for Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida all together, they might have something. I mean, if the whole border state region put its foot down, they could stop all this nonsense. And keep in mind, that's where the petroleum industry is. It's on our southern border. So where's Shell? Oh, they're in Houston. Where's Exxon? Well, they're in the same place. They're in the Gulf. They're in Houston. They got refineries down there. They got everything they need down there. Where's the Keystone Pipeline go? Same place. Yeah. All right. So the threat of secession, if they could get agreement on all those states, hey, this is it. We're not putting up with this anymore. And that's been discussed.
It has. And it's not a good thing in my mind. I would much rather see our union hold together.
Oh, everybody would.
This is a disaster.
But they could make a statement by claiming, okay, our legislatures have all voted to secede because what's going on our southern border is an invasion, and you refuse to pay attention.
That's a protest vote. Yes, I guess.
If they could get all those governors to work together, they could stop this. And they do hold the reins on the petroleum industry there. Right. And if the crude is supposed to come from all these feeder pipelines, open them up, or else.
Wow. Tim Marshner of the Coin and Stamp Shop in Manchester, New Hampshire. Tim, thanks so much again for taking the time, this long interview.
People, for some reason, thought all I worry about is coins and gold and silver.
Oh, no, they don't. Check out the description in the video that you're watching right now for Tim's information. Give him a call. Tell him Yankee sent you. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Anytime. Did we have enough of a discussion to
I think
actually
we
make a
do.
difference?